I touched on the importance of education in an earlier video, and I wanted to go into that a little bit more. One, it appears that a lot of our schools are not opening, and a lot of teachers, not all of them of course, but a lot don't really seem interested in teaching children, our children, your children, which is hard to understand since they chose to go into that profession, and it's a highly important profession, and a advanced society cannot stay advanced if its citizenry is ill-educated. And I have a BA, and I've watched the liberal arts degenerate over the years. And I think I had mentioned before that back in my day, in the 60s, you learned to think critically. If you studied history, political science, literature, English literature, whatever, all those items considered liberal arts, you came away with the ability to understand how you got from point A to point D, and it made sense to you. Recently on Facebook, I saw a post by someone said, who really doesn't need algebra? And algebra was not one of my top subjects. I learned later that it was important, but almost everybody on there was like, well, I never use it. Well, you do use it, and we're using it right now on the internet, and don't even know it. And when you pick up a financial calculator to figure out what interest rate you can afford to buy that house, or how much money is it going to take you to make a down payment and pay that interest rate, or to build a house, how much do you need? You're using algebra, whether you know it or not. And most of us appear not to know it because we've got these wonderful handhelds. This is a financial calculator, an HP 12C, which is a very old one, but still does everything that you need financially, and all the formulas built in there will get you where you need to know. And so we're becoming dependent on the artificial intelligence, computers, to do our thinking for us. And there are a few people that have to be able to do this in order to maintain the instrumentation and so forth, and that's part of education. But we, as literate human beings, need to have some understanding of how the world works around us. And good literature will tell you that. It will talk to you, speak to you about that. If you read Lord Byron or William Faulkner or F. Scott Fitzgerald, and the list goes on, Mark Twain, you get a slice of life. You get a piece of understanding of what other people go through. I live in a town, and I've mentioned this before, where William Faulkner lived. And people come from all over the world, from all different races, ethnicities, cultures, who have read William Faulkner. And he speaks to them because he speaks to the human condition. He makes us realize we are all human beings. And that's what good education, good literature can do. It speaks to you as a human being. And yes, you can be a different skin tone, or a different this or a different that, or whatever. But good writers of literature make you understand the human factor in all of us. And the refusal to understand that by by people. We have people right now in great universities who are trying to throw out English writers because they're white. Well, the country of England's been white till recently. So all those writers had been white. James Baldwin, who I'm an admirer of, was a black American writer, and a very good one. And he speaks to the human condition. He has a viewpoint. But when you come down to it, that viewpoint speaks to all of us. So to throw people away because you don't agree with their viewpoint, or in the case of, say, a William Shakespeare, because he writes in a language from the past and we don't like it, it's not as colloquial as ours is now, we don't want to study him. But yet, if you want to be a writer, if you want to understand human beings, and psychologists, psychiatrists have said this, if you want to understand the human condition, you need to read William Shakespeare, because he spoke to the human condition. He understood human beings and what they went through in here, in the heart. Goethe in Germany, and I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. Same thing, Thomas Mann, German also. Spoke to human beings. Confucius, a Chinese philosopher, wrote about how to live the good life, how to live a life full of honor and using your abilities and so forth. That's speaking, and that was education and speaking to the human condition. That's what education is supposed to do, and teach us how to deal with that and how to every day approach living. You can't be afraid of living. And that's what a lot of us do when we run away from being educated. We say we're bored, and sometimes it's the fault of the teacher, but books are right there. And now you have this marvelous, and I've said this before, instrument, the computer that we have now, and you can look things up in a heartbeat. And you don't have to look up the worst thing going on or whatever. And it's good to understand the bad things that are going on, and you can get that but you need to balance your life. You need to understand the pros and the cons, and you need to understand how to arrive at a logical conclusion. If you can't do that, then you can't live. You're reduced to sitting on your couch drinking beer, watching a football games for 8 hours a day. And I love football. I played football, and I adore the game. I have a son and grandsons who play the game. One of them in college. One of them's coaching it right now. So sports is part of education. It teaches you how to compete and how to work with other people and how to raise your standards on how to be better. But education does the same thing. And the Greeks believed in that balance, sound mind, sound body. And we need to do that. And right now, it appears to me, we are so afraid of living that we are withdrawing into cocoons and don't want to take part and don't want to challenge our brains. And if we don't challenge our brains, challenge our bodies, we can't truly live a good life. You have a good day.